Hey guys, I put a video out yesterday, but for some reason it doesn't seem to be working properly, so I'm going to re-record it today. And in that video, I was talking more about anxiety and about the characteristics of the kind of thinking that we have when we are anxious people. So see if this sounds familiar. When you're anxious, it's almost like you've got two voices in your head. There's that kind of you that's listening and then reasoning with that voice, and then you've got this other voice which is, I guess, constantly asking you questions or planting seeds of doubt in your mind, which is the thing that then gets you into that kind of anxious thinking and worrying. So what we tend to do is we have all of these problems that are ongoing for us at the moment. It's like we're kind of juggling all of these different balls. But what we do is we don't actually really look at any one of them. We just kind of take one ball out and we kind of look at it and go, oh my God, that's terrible. And then kind of throw it back up and then spin the other ones and take another one going. And you're thinking of the worst parts of that, the kind of the worst case scenarios that I've talked about before. So it's important to kind of get that this voice, this other voice in your head, the way that it gets you is it tends to generalize. So in NLP, we say that there are things called generalizations, okay? So the voice will use words like everyone will think that you're bad at this, or you will always be terrible at that. And it's always in absolutes, very generalized. And because it's very generalized, it kind of blows things way out of proportion really quickly. And that's what kind of freaks you out so much. So the way to think about it is almost like there's a bit of a courtroom case going on in your mind. And there's you, the defense lawyer, and then there's this other voice, which is kind of the prosecution that's trying to get you all riled up. And one thing that you can do is you can start to cross-examine or pick holes in the argument that that little voice in your head has. Because this is the problem. The reason that the voice gets you is because it says things that you haven't got answers for. So the way to get your own back or regain control, if you like, is to start really looking at these things. So you will take one ball that you are juggling out and you will open it up and you will do something. You will ask 4 simple questions. And these questions are, okay, number 1, what is the worst that can happen in that circumstance or that thing that I'm worrying about? Now, by doing that, you aren't just sort of going, oh my God, I don't want to look at that, and then going through all the catastrophizing. What you're doing is you're picking the very worst. And then what you do is you ask another question, which is, okay, so how bad would that actually be? And get really specific about it. And then you say, okay, how likely is that to even happen? And I guarantee you most of the time, it's pretty low on the percentage scale. And then finally, you ask, if that did happen, as unlikely as it is, how would I cope? So let's use an example here. Let's say that you were doing some public speaking or you had some public speaking coming up. And of course, this voice is then going in your ear and planting all the seeds about how terrible it could be and all the things that could happen. So you say, okay, what is the worst that could happen about this? And you might say something like, I might forget my words. And then everyone will laugh at me. Notice the everyone in there, okay? So that's the worst case scenario. And then you say, okay, so how bad would that actually be? Okay, would you die? You know, what would actually happen? You might feel a little bit awkward for a few minutes. You might be a little bit embarrassed. But is it life or death? No, it really isn't. And then you would say, okay, well, how likely is that to actually happen in the first place? Are people really going to just stop and point and laugh at you? Which is one of those scenarios you've been playing in your head. It's pretty unlikely. They might sort of wait or feel there might be a moment of awkward silence. But chances are they'll just wait. And then finally, how would I cope? Well, you probably either make a joke and say, oh, excuse me, I'll put my false teeth back in, or you would say, I'll say that bit again, or you'll just carry on. Now, what you've done here is you have taken one of these out and you've seen it through all the way to conclusion. You've got some resolution on that. So the next time this voice in your head starts to tell you, oh, what if and what if, you can kind of say, well, I've done it. I've kind of seen it. I've got it through conclusion. I know what I'm doing. I'll know how I'll cope. And because of that reason, you can stop thinking about it. And that's one less ball that you're juggling. And you can do it with anything. So I hope that's helpful. I guess the point I'm trying to make in some of these videos I've been saying recently is, it's about either, remember I said do something about it, accept it, or remove yourself from the situation. I guess that's a first step. But if you really do have to go through with something because you probably want to, like doing the public speaking thing, then it's good to nip in the bud very quickly those niggling thoughts that you're having, so that you can be present and you can actually calm down because you've seen it through to some kind of resolution. I used to be really terrified of public speaking, but what I've come to realize is actually I love public speaking. I'm doing some public speaking next weekend, ironically, on performance anxiety for a group of teachers, and what I've realized is what I was running away from wasn't public speaking. It was the feeling of anxiety and letting this voice just sort of get me all riled up about it. But the moment that you put it into perspective and you get control over that and you really get present and stay conscious using the tools that I'm giving you, you can take control of that and you'll be fine with it. So I hope that's helpful. Have a great weekend.